Welcome back, Fire Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and let me say, before we get started with this video, hello. It's been a while. Yeah, it's just been tough to get time to make videos. Work has been extremely hectic, and at the same time, trying to get good quality gameplay videos, practicing for different regionals, has been quite a challenge to fit all of that in together with uploading on YouTube. But, as a way to have you guys forgive me, I have been working on something really special behind the scenes, and we're almost ready to share with you guys that's going to really impact the One Piece community and going to give a lot of those people that have been unable to buy product or get their hands on product the opportunity to get that product. But once we get closer to those dates, I'll make sure to give you guys all the information, so stay tuned for that. Without any further ado, let's get right into the news. I know it's a little late for news, but the Peoria Regional, this happened 2 weekends ago, happened in Peoria. I was there. It was excellent. It was awesome. I had a great time. Anyone that I got to meet, thank you so much for coming up. It meant a lot to me to see you guys in person, see your support, and see a lot of you do so well at that regional. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to top 16. My dream ended very early, but I was playing what I think is the best deck of the format. And unfortunately, the deck that kind of has warped the format around itself, and that is the White Bizzle. So Whitebeard, man, Whitebeard. What is there to say? He took up about 1/3 of the top 16 deck list. Everywhere I looked, there was Whitebeards to my left, Whitebeards to my right. I was playing Whitebeard, and honestly, that deck feels very powerful. It can be Moby Dick, it can be Straw Hat, it can be a mix. And doesn't matter what you do, the fact that the leader is so powerful, his stat line is so good, and the cards for Edward Newgate are so good, means that the deck can do kind of whatever it wants. And the deck lists are really, really up to you. It's really difficult to say what is a core card in Whitebeard, except for Radical Beams. Radical Beam is a core card. Everything else is kind of whatever you want, right? We see Kinemon and Doflamingo as the second and third most represented decks. Law, and then Zoro. So funnily enough, Law, being one of the least represented decks in top 16 alongside Zoro, was able to get first place. Congratulations to Michael E, aka Cross AI. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, check it out. Guy is awesome at the One Piece card game, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. So without more rambling, let's get right to the deck list. So this is the Law list. You can't see Law. He's kind of like off screen, but he's there. Leader is Law, and then this is the rest of the deck. If you look at this list, that's a pretty darn good Law list. If you looked at my previous video, which has been, it's almost been 2 weeks since I uploaded a video. If you look at that video where I went and did the Law Masterclass, which is, the deck that I basically have been practicing the most, you'll see very small changes between that list and this list. I do believe that the list that I was able to give you guys at the end of that video was close to as optimal as I can and close to my playstyle. The main differences was he didn't max out on Brook, and he's still playing the Roar Zoro from OP02, which I did test out for a really long time, but ended up just not liking. And he did play the starter deck Zoro, which is a super duper strong card, especially in Law. The East has been playing it for a really long time in conjunction with the starter deck Law, as well as the fact that you can restand him basically with the OP01 Law, mixed up for the card that's very, very powerful, very, very sticky, and very difficult for your opponent to get off the board and easy for you to defend. I ended up opting for the Rush Zoro to use him as a piece of removal and a piece of pseudo rush, but this structure deck Zoro has an excellent matchup into the Whitebeard. So if you're expecting to play a lot of Whitebeard mirrors day in and day out, this card is going to be really, really good. He also maxes out on both Tony and Veggie, which is, again, very, very good versus the Beard. The only thing that you have to really watch out when you're playing that deck is the fact that you have to be cognizant of when you're taking damage. The deck hitting you for 6 is a really real number because there's not a lot of defense in your deck at the end of the day. Even though he is playing 2 Radical Beams, sometimes you can't even allow yourself to keep up Dawn because you have to invest so much in trying to deal damage. So early game, you're going to be eating damage, but if you get flooded with only red and no green, that's a bad time, which happened in game 2. If you're flooded with more green than red, which is very rare to happen, you're going to have a bad time. So unfortunately, Law, in my opinion, is a very, very powerful deck. After playing it for like a month and a half straight, the only reason I switched to the Whitebeard at the end is because why am I trying to beat the best deck as opposed to just playing the best deck? Law in a 9-round tournament in a best of 1 format is really, really, really tough, right? Because the deck can eventually brick into it of itself. Remember that you do have to run semi-clean, and the fact that you have to run a multitude of 1-drops, right? You're playing, I believe, 20-something 1-drops. And you do want to be able to shambles at least on your third turn, right? You won't be able to do it any earlier than that. So if you are unable to do that, then the second best thing you can do is just kind of ride a law. Like, you'll have 3 characters on the board, you'll use a law, and then the following turn you'll try to shambles. But there's a lot of variance that can come to it, and I was very afraid of my deck not hitting the cards that I needed at the right time, and because of that, I did not play law. But congratulations to Cross-Eye for playing the deck exceptionally well and taking it to this list. A very cool list, very strong list. And then we have the second place, the Moby Dick version of Whitebeard. Now, the Moby Dick version is not bad by any means. I personally played the Strawbeard version, and I'm going to show you a list that I think got 6th place, and it's a very similar list to the one that I was playing. The reason I opted not to play the Moby Dick version is because A, I think the 9-drop is really, really powerful. What does the Moby Dick version do better than the 9-drop version? Well, A, the Moby Dick version has access to not losing to Magellan, right? So I know that's crazy, but that's something you have to consider. When they Magellan you character card on curve over and over and over again, if they go the first Magellan, the second Magellan, you're probably not going to be able to play the Whitebeard that game, right? Because the fact that your leader is taking a life every single turn, you won't get to 9 Dawn before you can play the leader and keep up a life. That's the whole purpose of the 9-drop in Strawbeard. Keep 1 life and go to 8k is basically pass the turn for your opponent. So they have to invest in like doing suboptimal plays, trying to hit your board, trying to like build a board. And at that time, they're just not hitting your leader, which then if you follow it up with a second 9-drop, they've lost the game almost entirely. So that's kind of the game plan. A, if you don't see the 9-drop, the deck feels still tough. It's still winnable, but it feels really, really rough into the mirror. And secondly, if you get Magellan over and over again, those are the kind of biggest weaknesses that the Strawbeard version has. The Moby Dick version, on the other side, it's kind of similar, right? Your 9-drop is Moby Dick, in a sense, right? That's the card that you want to see that kind of turns your whole deck online. And it's understandable. The Jet Pistol play is really, really bizarre, but I can kind of see it. This will probably never, ever trigger out of life, but it's really good for keeping up tempo in some matches. If you're playing the mirror, oftentimes your opponent will choose to go second or first. It's irrelevant. They'll drop a 6k attack body on either turn, whether at 4 Dawn or whether at 5 Dawn. And the Jet Pistol is just a clean out to that card, and then you put the rest of your Dawn on your leader, swing again, right? Because all you want to do is pressure them so that they're unable to play the 9-drop, and then effectively your Moby Dick is going to take care of the game because your cards are going to be so big, so well statted that you should, in theory, win the mirror. So the Moby Dick version, again, good into the mirror, doesn't lose to Magellan, and also just has a, not too bad of a time versus decks that kind of try to slow you down and try to hit you for really big numbers early. The main issue that this version has is it struggles pretty heavily versus a variety of blockers. Your number one answer is Seaquake, but if you use a Seaquake in hand, you lose a card in hand, right? You give a card to take a card. If you're going to be playing against the Law deck and they go Veggies and Choppers all day on you, you only have 4 Vistas as well as the Seaquakes to really clear that board. Not easy to do because you don't really, Vista you don't feel bad because you're playing Moby Dick. This becomes a 5k online. The issue is you don't really want to keep Seaquaking because at the end of the day, you're going to be losing cards in hand and they can calculate lethal at easier times. The thing, what Strawbeard has that this deck doesn't, is it has access to the 5-drop Luffy. 5-drop Luffy is an exceptionally powerful card. That card being unblockable, its stat line being exactly 6k, being a rusher. Kind of one of the biggest reasons you want to play the Strawbeard version. You get access to the Nami, Searcher for Radical Beam, and you get access to that Luffy. So for all those reasons, that's why it's very difficult to decide between both of these versions, but each of them have their pros as well as their cons. But congratulations, this is from the one of the gentlemen that does the channel and Will to Win Gaming. I've been watching their content for a really long time. Funnily enough, this is not the first time he tops with Whitebeard. This is the second time, so pretty knowledgeable on the beard. I think my biggest mistake when I played Whitebeard was I shaved before going to the regional, and how can you shave your beard when you're going to be playing Whitebeard? Big mistake. This is a version that is very similar to what I was playing. Very few and small differences was that he was playing Thatch where I was playing the King Do, but I do think Thatch is just honestly a probably better card, right? The fact that it's a base 8k follows perfectly on the 6 curve. You don't need to make a better 5 curve because your Luffy's already like the best 5, but if you just change the numbers just a little bit around, that's exactly the list I was playing, card for card. I wasn't playing Atmos. I was maxing out on this. I would go down on this because that's my do count. And then I have the rest of this is exactly the same. And with these last 3 cards, it was guard point, and I believe another one of maybe it was like this. Yeah, like this. And that was the deck I was playing. So congratulations to this guy. The deck is super duper powerful. It does have to run in a way that's pretty clean. The mirror matchup is very frustrating because it comes down to whoever has the more of the big beards, and if you're able to not pressure early and they are able to go beard into beard into beard with 2 life, you've almost certainly lost. It's very difficult to push through that. But if you have an assortment of Luffys, Frankies, and Aces, and in this version Thatch, then there is a potential for you to push through that board because they might not have a lot of counter in hand. They've just played Whitebeards. They've been defending so much early. There's a lot that comes down to the mirror, and hopefully between now and Peoria, I am able to show you guys some videos showcasing what it means to play the Whitebeard deck, explaining the mirror match, and just take it from there to a high-level gameplay. I am planning on making videos once again in my preparations for the Dallas Regional, so hopefully with that, we can all learn a couple things about the meta. And congratulations to the Don Quixote Doflamingo player. This is a deck that I am super excited to play. I think this deck is really, really cool. What's interesting about his list in particular, he's not playing any Jinbeis. 0 Jinbeis in this list. So if you guys think that you need to drop $100 per Jinbei to play Doflamingo, this guy said, heck nah, brother, you don't need it, right? So I think I really do like his list. He is making use of the Trafalgar Law card, which is just 1-drop blockers are still very, very powerful. In conjunction with Perona, Don Quixote Doflamingo, you get to choose when you get this blocker to your hand. In matchups where you're playing at Zoro versus Law versus anything that's not Whitebeard, this card's really, really strong. And even against Whitebeard, this card's really, really strong. Versus the Moby Dick version, they almost have to Seaquake this because this is going to eat a ton of damage. And you use it prior to getting to the late game to block one of their like 7 or 8k attacks, and you're just feeling really, really good about it. Perona, come on now, this is like the Nami of the deck. Don Quixote Doflamingo is just more copies of the Nami, but with a blocker stat line, and the fact that he is 4k, chef's kiss. Cannot be destroyed by the 9-drop. You have 3 of the 2k, 2 Teaches. Teaches are kind of, people are very iffy on Teach right now, mostly because he's a 4k stat line. He's a 1k counter, 4k. He is a 7 Warlords of the Sea. You can add it back with the Gecko Moria. He is really good for tempo in matchups like Zoro and Law, super strong card. But in matchups, again, if you're expected to play against the Beard, to make Teach attack your leader or to become an attacking threat, you do have to invest 2 Dawn, which depending on the turn is anywhere between between like 50 to 20% of your turn, which is a lot to just get 1 card. So oftentimes, even if you are able to play the Teach and slow them down a turn, it might not even be worth it. But I do see that he was playing it really good into the mirror as well. 4 of the Kuma being able to summon any Pacifistas, and he's playing a 2-2 split of blocker plus regular Pacifistas. This Pacifista, even though it's a vanilla, the fact that it's a vanilla 6k means it has a really good stat line, and the fact that this Pacifista is a 5k blocker, similar to the Don Quixote, is just 5k blockers and 4k blockers. This meta are actually really, really good, which is weird because prior to this, it was kind of like their whatevers. But I'm excited to see cards like that really coming back. Then we have 4 of the Boa. It's a 5k blocker with a really good effect. We got 4 of the Gecko Moria, a recursion card, 4 of the 2k that can be recurred, 4 of the 6k vanilla that can be summoned off the top of the deck, and that's just some good support right there. 1 of the Monkey D. Luffy. I don't know why this is here, but I like it. And then 3 of the Flamingo, 3 Mihawk, and I really like this top end. Flamingo. Card kind of disappeared in OP01, but it's now back in OP02, and it's really, really strong. Why is Flamingo strong right now? Well, they go Ace, and you're like, cool, Flamingo, right? Or like, let's say you're going first, so they're going to be on 6 Dawn. They'll go play a 5 cost, or they'll play a Thatch. Let's see, just like the list that we had here earlier of the Whitebeard. They'll play a Thatch, right? That's their 6k turn. You go into your 7 Dawn turn, you go Flamingo the Thatch. Okay, they just passed the turn. Then they go play Ace or play Thatch again, and you're like, cool, Mihawk the Thatch. Swing with Don Quixote. And then you've just basically, they've skipped 2 turns, and they haven't really done anything, so they've burned 2 life. So this has become very, very powerful, this format. Its stat line is really, really good. So if they want to go ahead and remove the Flamingo, they're going to have to invest Dawn into it. You have a bunch of counter cards. Everything in your deck is counter except for like 5 or 6 cards. So the Flamingo coming back is really, really good. Not only that, but into the Kinemon matchup, Kinemon only has really 2 big threats at the end of the day. It's going to be the big boy Odin as the 7-drop Eustace Captain Kid. And guess who answers 7-drop Eustace Captain Kid on curve? Flamingo. They go ahead 7, you're like, cool bro, get that out of here. It's very, very nice. In other matchups like versus red and things of that nature, this card might not come in as much as you want, but there are other really interesting blue cards that you can play in your deck that could discard cards from your hand, but we'll get to those in the other videos that we do. I hope to show you for Doflamingo. Then we've got Kinemon, a pretty standard Kine list. Not much to say. They valued the Toki over the Beji. They're playing a ton of little blockers, 3, 2, 4, right? Usually you don't see Bejis in Kinemon decks, but he was able to sneak in 2 of them. He's still playing 2 of the Law as 3 of the X-Drake, so there's a big Supernova package, a lot of interesting things, and I think the way he was able to fit all those cards in was by dropping an Okiku, which is really, really bizarre. Usually Okiku is your strongest turn 1 play. And the other thing that I noticed that isn't in this deck is Paradise Waterfall. I know a lot of people don't like Paradise Waterfall because it is only a 2k for 1 Dawn, very similar to like a Desert Spada, but at the end of the day, it's really, really good for the mirror, and I don't believe it's worth cutting, but at the end of the day, who am I to say this guy got top 16? And lastly, we have a Zoro profile, which is a pretty darn standard one. The only thing that really stands out to me is the 1 of Sanji and the 3/3 top end, right? Usually you see Zoro players wanting to max out on the White Bizzle because this is kind of like your deck leader. You want to see this card, you want to summon, and without any draw power, this is the way that you're going to see him more often than not. But maybe he just didn't want to clunk on Whitebeards. Honestly, I don't think that's a bad problem to have, but again, very standard Zoro deck, and definitely a very powerful deck going in. If you look at the statistics from this current event, or from the Card of Magic event, Zoro had the highest win percentage of any other deck in the entire tournament, running at like 54%, which isn't really high. That's really good. If there's no deck at 60%, we're in a good spot. But at 54% on Zoro, and it being a very popular deck, I think people keep sleeping on the Samurai. And now we're going to get to the Market Watch section. I'm going to run through this super duper fast, so I know it's been quite a long video thus far, so we're just going to run through this portion. I'm going to be covering the participation cards, which I'm going to have to whip out a calculator because, my goodness, right? So $30 for the Golden Dawn. That's actually not as bad as I thought these were going to be. Personally, when I saw all the Dawn being opened and all of these specific things, I thought the Golden Dawn was going to be one of the more expensive Dawns in the set. I love the Golden Dawn personally. That's one of the Dawns that I'm trying to get to 10 because it's just so clean looking, honestly. But again, I can understand to some people that they don't like how it's plain, and you do get it for participation, so I kind of get it. But $30 for the Golden Dawn is still very, very high. As more events keep opening up online, offline, and whatever, there'll be much more access to the Golden Dawn. So at 30 bucks, I would still not buy it. I'm currently trying to pick these up from people that have attended events near me at like maybe 15s, 20s, if they're willing to do it at those prices. But this is not what's surprising. What is surprising is the following Dawns. What? And the crazy part is you're like, okay, maybe they just listed it at this price, and you're like, all right, whatever. They're just smoking. They have, you know, they just put it 200 to see if anyone would buy. Nope, that's not the case. The card has been selling for 150 to 130. It sits in the 130 to 150 dollar range for a participation card. Now, I was fortunate enough to pull the Chopper one, but I wanted to keep it because Chopper is my homie. But honestly, I don't think he's that much of my homie. But if you're going to buy this for like 150, I guess you can have it, man. But geez, just remember, this is a participation card. I don't understand why it's going for this much. And again, as more regionals and more events open up, they should go for lower. I don't even know what to say. I've been looking at this market for like a week now, since it's been out for about a week on TCG Player. And I was really expecting these cards to be anywhere between $40 to $50, but they just hold over 100, which is, man, One Piece values are just out of this world. Then we got the Zorodon going for a solid 150. Even if you look over here, the card was sold at 200 at one point, and it's slowly been coming down, but it's sold anywhere between $125 to $200. It's sitting at 150, seems like a reasonable number for that very, very low statistic, but at the same time, no. Then we've got the Orange Dawn, which I cannot figure out who the Orange Dawn is, and it keeps bugging me. But Orange Dawn going for about $160. The Luffy Dawn for $145. Brook for $145. The Nico Robin for $145. Maybe it's Nami. Is it Nami? It's probably Nami. But yeah, it's selling at $175, $170. This sold for... Look how many Luffy Dawns have sold comparatively. I mean, this is not a lot. This is less than 10 Dawn, but my goodness. They are selling at extremely crazy rates. The Brook Dawn, again, and all of these Dawns have sales behind them, so you can't just say, well, there's no sales. People are just putting up at what they want, but They're all selling for basically over $100, except for, I think I saw this one, but this is probably the Japanese one. There is no Frankie one up at this time. Again, each of the Dons clean above $100. Clean. The lowest I've seen any Don go for is 100. You got the Jinbei, $100 was the cheapest that it went for. The Sanji here for $100. Someone's trying to sell someone keeps trying to list up the Japanese. I guess it's Top Choice Gaming. So all the Japanese ones are going for like $40, it seems. But again, Japanese ones are not technically tournament legal. The Usopp one being the cheapest at $90. Damn, they really did Usopp like that, huh? And then lastly, let's talk about the participation cards that you get from the event. You got the Pudding sitting at $100, and I believe this card was selling at way higher. Yeah, selling at 135s, 100. Again, only 4 of them have really been sold. There's online and offline versions because it does say here 2023 offline or online, doesn't really matter. Participant, but they do have like a small variation of like $10. I think the online, for whatever reason, is $10-ish to $5 more expensive than the offline. The Toby, 120. I sold this card for like $50, and I'm like really sad, but it's all good, you know. I was not expecting this card to be $120, but that was clearly my mistake. Honestly, the art for this card is fantastic. Look at Shanks in the background. If you haven't seen this in person, like, this is really the selling point. Forget like the rest of this card and the playability of the card. Ignore all of that. Shanks. Again, 120. It has been selling for exactly 120, so this card will sit there for quite some time. The Pudding has some space for it to drop just a little bit more because only been 4 sales, and all the sales were so much higher. People dropped it to like $90, and it's still not selling. So it is what it is. The Sanji Participant here for 75. This is not like a usually meta-defining card, but it is a beautiful collector card to look at. It has sold at $90 and $90 alone. So we're going to have to see this card continue to drop before we see like a consistent array of buys that I can go ahead and say comfortably, this is how much this card is worth. Then we've got the Jack, a card that is, honestly, the artwork on this is insane. Very different from a lot of the artworks in the show, or at least in the game. But it's not really too meta currently. It was meta at some point in time, but the card is currently sitting. I can't see any listings right now. But I have seen it sold for $60. You have a selling right here at 60. I don't think you guys can see it. But other than that, that's all you have. So again, not sure. This Trafalgar Law selling at about $60. It has 1 sell on the day of 420. I don't understand what happened on that day. But the Law going for 50-ish bucks is okay. This is for a lightly played version. If you look for the near mints, it goes up to $60. But at the end of the day, this is a card that, again, you don't see in the meta. The artwork is kind of nice. I did pull this one as well, but this looks more like a collection card. If anyone wants to buy it for $50, I mean, you're more than welcome to, but at the same time, not sure if this card will see much play. And lastly, the Marshall D Teach. Now, this is a card that, again, even the deck that plays this card, Don Quixote Doflamingo, is kind of iffy on, so they'll play anywhere between 0 to like 3 of this card, and at that point in time, you know, you can't say he has some meta-defining characteristics, but there's just so little listings that you can't really tell. It's been sold for $50 and then $70, and now people are trying to push it up all the way up to $85. I think, again, all of these participation cards, guys, every single one of them, besides like the Kobe, because the artwork is so unbelievably insane, as well as the fact that like it is a good card, and maybe the Pudding because it is a 2K and it's a cute card, I get it. So because of all those factors, maybe these two will hold up, but the rest of these should tank pretty heavily as more events come out, and even these two should tank. So again, anywhere between like 50% is what I'm expecting these cards to tank. I see this card at $100. It's probably more realistically at 50. This card 120, most probably realistically, again, 50 to 55 at any point in time. And then these over here, you know, like a $20 card, $20 card, $15 card, and like a $20 card. That would be much more reasonable for these cards. But again, these numbers just, they just crazy. So I'm going to just, right before we wrap up the video, let's open up our handy dandy calculator. And let's say we paid $30 to enter this event, right? Okay, that's $30. That's a good amount of money. We get 1 Golden Dawn. Okay, that's about, you know, currently $30. So we've already made our money back just on the Golden Dawn. Good times. Then we get a little Dawn pack. You know, we didn't get super lucky. We didn't pull Chopper or Zoro. We pull like a Brook. Damn, that's about $120. Oops, didn't do it correctly. And then you're like, all right, that's about $150. Then you're like, well, I got another participant pack, so let me see what I get off of this. I got like the Sanji, you know. Oh, That's like 50 bucks. And then you get the event pack and you hit the gym bay and you're like, oh, that's like about 100 bucks. Damn, that's kind of cool, man. And then for your $30, you just now got $300 worth of participation. So now you guys can understand why these events just sell out so absolutely quickly. It's the same thing in the, when Digimon did online events, the participation was so unbelievably broken that everyone would just sign up, not play, not care. The participation is worth more than the event in of itself. And then it left people that really wanted to join the event in a position where they're like, man, I can't get these cards, so I have to buy them. And at the same time, I can't get into these events, so I can never, showcase that I'm like good at the game. And it's just a very interesting scenario. But I hope you guys do get the opportunity to play in these events. They're super duper fun, and I'm excited to see you guys in Dallas. With that being said, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you have any comments that you want to go ahead and leave for me in the comment section, I will be reading them and I'll be answering them as much as possible. They don't have to pertain to this video, don't have to pertain to the market watch. It can pertain to the meta, it can pertain to the why haven't I made videos recently, whatever you want it to be. Leave a comment down below. And as always, guys, if you're liking the content and are hoping to continue seeing where we go with this channel, then hit that subscribe button and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.